Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Point and Click Puzzle Games with myself, Angela. And whilst I'm on the process of designing a new app, I thought I would take you on a journey with me real quickly in this video to learn how I map out and plan my games. So, jumping straight on over to my left-hand monitor screen, you can see that I've got a window open here already, and it's a free online piece of software called Miro. Now, I've obviously already signed up, but just as you can see me wiggling my mouse, you can go and sign up quite quickly and use it for yourself. And then when you do so, you end up with a canvas a bit like this. Now, it has lots of different tools for all sorts of different flowcharts and mapping software for use case scenarios and all sorts, but I'm using the flowchart here, and as you can see on my screen in the different colours, I've got a different process going on. And as the title of my actual video today is called, it's the mapping of my app scenes. Now, I'm only showing you here, because I don't want to give the game away, the first few title scenes, but it should give you enough sort of food for thought to think of doing something similar to yourself. So, walking you through my theory, first of all, we will then go in and see how it works and translate into the real world. So scene number one is my splash screen, or scene I should say. Now, I know you can get plugins that you can purchase from the Solar 2D website and this, that and the other, but if you think about it, a splash screen is just a regular scene that appears for something like 3-4 seconds and then disappears all on its own accord. So it's incredibly easy to program. I've created my own, and for this very first scene that is loaded, I'm showing my developer logo, which is my Point and Click Puzzle Games logo. Within a few seconds, it will naturally navigate on over to scene 2. Now, for me, this is the logo that I present to the user, which is for the game, the app itself. However, it's a bit of a Trojan horse in that it actually has a dual function for me, and that is behind the scenes, in code, in the background, I now get the opportunity to start loading all of the different status settings for the entire game environment. So things like if they've been playing the game and I've got 100 scenes for them to work through and they're only on scene 66, well, I don't want them to restart the game at scene 1. That's really unfair. So I need to tell my app to reload or open up the game from the last point of play, which would be scene 66, and that's where I do it. And so scene 2, or my title screen 2 here, has a completely different function amongst my game environment, as it were. And of course, when the person then clicks on continue, they are then presented with the main menu. So by now you're already on 3 different scenes, and this is where you get like the settings, play the game or continue the game, and obviously see the credit screen. And so settings lives here, and this is my credit screen. And of course, like I was just trying to say to you, there's a decision process here, because I'm not always going to present to them the start game button, because if they're halfway through the game, they want to continue playing. So actually, because of the settings loaded here in the second title screen, or the splash screen there, depicts what happens. So I actually program the button to change the wording depending on the status of game and the play of the app. And that's why we have 2 different outcomes here. So the red one here is the scene narration. So obviously when you very first start the game and you've downloaded it, never touched it before, there's always a bit of a backstory into the whole scenario and why the adventure exists. And they will play instantly, first of all, using the red screen here, or the red little box. But obviously, once the game is in play and in situ, I don't want to show them that. I actually want to show them the gameplay scenes, and that's where the green is. Now, there's a faint little line here which says zone ? Because I I'm going to have games that have hundreds of scenes. Well, not necessarily hundreds, but it's going to be up there. And I want some sort of way of organising it. Now, just like a book would have chapters, I intend to have chapters within my game where you've got to conquer so much of an area of the game first before you can transition into the second zone of the game. Now, I could call it chapters, but I've particularly decided to call it zones, beginning with the letter Z, because letter Z is at the bottom of the alphabet, and then when I actually organise all my file hierarchy and structure, all my zones will sit together, and it's just a nice way of organising my files and folders, which I'll show you in just a moment. So this is basically how I lay out the theory of planning the first few scenes of my game. As you can see here now, I am literally on sort of like placeholder images at the moment, and I'm going to talk you through these as well in just a second. So let's just run through this as a quick demo. So as the game loads, this is title screen 1, which is my developer logo. We're now on title screen 2, which is the app logo, and as you can see, I've got a placeholder image. There's the continue button. So before I hit continue as a user, in the background now as a developer, I would have made sure that the app knows all of the different settings and statuses within the game to be able to load and continue play for the user. So I click on continue, and then we get to that main menu screen where we've got 3 options: start game, settings and credits. Now, to give you an example of settings, I create background images at the moment to act like placeholders because there's no text, there's no images, there's no graphic, there's nothing going on in this scene. It's just an empty file at the moment, but I still want some sort of way of knowing that the game has worked. So there's a couple of things that are actually going on. First of all, if I scroll and move myself out the way, down here in the simulator console, I actually have lots of different things telling me instructions, and I'm going to talk you through what's going on there in a minute. But I know I'm in the settings file, and if we look very carefully, starting here, we can see that the settings file has loaded, the create scene has been called, the show will section of the scene has been called, as well as the show did. So I give myself little commands, and if you look very carefully back up all of these, you can see the files are opening and the closing and being destroyed when they're no longer used. So this is just my little way of telling myself what's going on in the memory of the app, and I don't remove this until the app is at a point of publication, because sometimes when I'm coding, and I think I've done videos on this in the past, but sometimes when I'm coding, something will create a thing in memory, an object in memory, and it's not actually being removed properly or whatever. And sometimes the scenes are sort of the overlapping if I haven't got the cut scenes included properly, and it's really nice just to know what I think is going on and what actually is going on in the memory of the app and the device are actually the same thing, and if they're not, then I've got problems, and this sort of just communicates to me the status of my app. Now if we go over here, I know it's a little on the small side, but we've got my folders, and we've obviously got some code here, but let's just move that for a second because I want you to look at these folders. Now this is how I set up my folder hierarchy here. So as you can see, we've got some of the actual app system folders themselves that automatically get generated by Solr 2D when you actually start the game. But what we've also got is my own audio file, and we've got a fonts folder, and we've got an images folder, and inside images I've got nested folders, one for the app, which is all those generic images that are going to work on any app, like my logo and that kind of thing, maybe user interface buttons like a home button and a play now button and those kind of things. And then what we've got is on, also you can see there, sorry I should say, you can see that I've started to segment my zones as well, and that's just a nice way of keeping everything tidy because there are going to be hundreds of images throughout my game, not just in the background scenes, but in the foreground, as well as objects that need to be picked up, which will live in the user interface as well. And then finally over here, we've got the zone A, which is where I will start to put my actual, what I call the gameplay scenes in here. Now I just call them GP1, GP2, GP3, etc. And that's just a way of me managing the hierarchy of my game. And the reason I do that is because all the Z, because if you notice this is all in alphabetical order, the folders as well as the actual files themselves. Outside of these areas, I've got all of the actual like kind of menu and title screens, but inside the zones, the actual gameplay. And it's just my way of organising and keeping everything neat and tidy. Now, if I refresh this again and quickly show you, obviously the same thing happens when I go to the credit screen, but there's just one little sort of hint while I'm on it at the moment that I want to show you. So there's my credit screen, and you can see that's all working. Now, if I reload and try and go to my play screen, it's going to create an error, and I want this on purpose to demonstrate something to you. There's the error. Now, something that you need to bear in mind is the path hierarchy, the way that you physically write the syntax for paths to files is different to when you write the syntax for the path to images. So let me open up the main menu. Okay, and we scroll on down. So if we look very carefully here, That is my line of code incorrectly written on screen saying zone A / gameplay scene 1. What I need to do, and what I should just point out, is it's exactly the same syntax format as the image. Now you can see that all the background images have been working on like the settings and the credits. So I know that the way I've wrote my syntax for a source file, such as the background image, works perfectly. But when I'm actually giving a directive to Solr2D to navigate to a different scene, a .lua file, a Lua file, we can't use the /. What we need to use is a full stop. And if I hit that save now and then request a refresh, when it comes up on screen and I get to my menu and I hit game, there's my GP1 scene. So that's just a little hint there as well, something that you need to bear in mind when you're developing your scenes. One of the things that I do now throughout the rest of my app development is I've already mapped out on my Miro software my entire app that I'm building, my entire adventure game. And for now, my job for the next few days is literally to create all of the scenes with these generic background template or background images, just so that I know I've navigated to the correct scene, making sure all the files are named correctly so I know what's going on in the console, and just literally create, it's like a house with empty rooms. My blueprint has been created into a physical building, but there's nothing in the building. There's no wallpaper, there's no paint, there's no furniture, there's no nothing. And that's exactly how I am building my app right now. So it's quite a good metaphor for you guys for when you are designing your games and apps. And there's lots of different ways to approach this. Some people like to do it scene by scene by scene and put all of the images in and complete one scene before they move on to the next. For me, I find that approach a bit irritating, so I like to kind of build the house, make sure it's empty before I render the walls and all the rest of it. So that's my approach. So I hope you found this really useful. If you did, please be sweet and hit that subscribe button and follow my channel. And I'm going to be on a journey for the next few months now on building my next game. And as I find little tutorials like this that I think you guys are going to sort of lap up and really enjoy using, or sort of seeing how my mind works and maybe adopting the same processes, I'm going to be creating content. So I hope you really enjoy it, and I'll see you on another video real soon. Take care. Bye bye.